Chapter 28. Anomaly. The morning after the launch felt like the city itself had exhaled a breath. It had been holding for far too long. I stood on the roof of the main garage at Rocky Ridge 2 weeks after the launch, watching the first rays of sunlight cut through the haze over the Badlands. Down in the yard, the trucks that had carried the free units were already heading back out, loaded with more units. The lines at the distribution points in Santo Domingo had stretched for blocks until well past midnight. And even now, the reports coming through my Blackwall shard showed people still arriving with whatever they could carry. Backpacks, carts, even a few improvised sleds pulled by modified bikes to be able to get their units. Downloads of the schematics had crossed 2 million overnight. The repositories were holding steady under the load, thanks to the Mirror's Allen's people, and the independent netrunners had spun up. Arasaka's launch of their homestead units, by comparison, landed with all the impact of a wet fart in a sandstorm. Their marketing blitz had been drowned out by the flood of Oradoom content already circulating the net. Live streams of people unboxing free units, tutorials popping up from strangers who had reverse engineered the designs, and community forums lighting up with improvement suggestions outnumbered Arasaka's advertisements and promotions. 1,000 to 1. Their stock took a visible dip in the pre-market trading. The Blackwall shard fed me fragments of their internal chatter from executives yelling about market disruption, board members demanding to know how Nomad Braindancer and Livestreamer had erased an entire product category before it even launched. I watched the data scroll and felt a smug sense of satisfaction. That was exactly what they deserved for trying to monetize a movement meant to give people more freedom. Fox found me up on the roof a little after dawn, carrying 2 cups of coffee that smelled more like burnt wiring than anything drinkable. He handed me one without a word and leaned against the railing beside me, both of us looking out at the distant sprawl of Night City waking up. Rihanna says the first batch of workshop volunteers showed up at the Santo Domingo hub before the sun was even up. He said after a sip, they're already arguing about who gets to teach the first class on the hydroponic towers. Some gonk from the old Valentino turf wants to turn it into a competition. I smiled and sipped my coffee. Fine by me. As long as they keep it friendly and the designs stay open, he chuckled. Low and rough. You know they will. The culture's already doing the heavy lifting. People are rejecting the corp knockoffs on site. Saw a vid last night of some suit trying to sell a premium version in the market. Guy got laughed out of the stall before he could finish his pitch. We stood in comfortable silence for a while, the wind carrying the distant hum of traffic and the occasional burst of laughter from the yard below. A ping came from the Blackwall shard a while after Fox had headed back down to help with the morning intake. It wasn't the usual status report or the quiet background chatter of the repositories. This one was sharper, almost insistent, like a finger tapping on the inside of my skull. The shard's interface had evolved into something half eye, half extension of my own technopathic sense. And it flared in my mind's eye. Merida, it called. You need to come see this. I froze, coffee halfway to my lips. It sounded urgent and excited. I set the cup down and headed for the stairs without answering Fox's questioning look from the yard. I made my way to the upper office in the main building. I slipped inside, sealed the door, and sat on the old couch. My eyes closed, and I allowed myself to flow into the connection that would bring me into the net. The transition was smoother than it used to be. I no longer needed an ice bath or a dive rig. Thanks to my technopathy, moving in the net was no different than walking down the street for me. So normal dangers of my body or brain overheating were no longer a concern. It was a simple rush of electronic signals as my consciousness slid through the threads of data. The Blackwall loomed ahead of me like a living wall of crimson code. The Blackwall shard had carved a private corridor through it, for me which only I could access without triggering the usual feral AIs. She stood on the other side, her form a mirror of my own but made of flowing golden code. A living silhouette of information that moved like a normal person in the world of data. Thanks for coming so soon, she said as she gave me a wave. I couldn't see it, but I could read the excited smile on her face. What's got you so excited today? I asked as I fell into step beside her. Movement in the net was less actual walking and more willing your consciousness through data nodes. But one's mind translated the action to be understandable. So as far it looked, we simply walked through the infinite void of net space, She grinned, that same grin I would give when I knew something someone else didn't. But knew they were going to lose their minds when I revealed that thing to them. Something appeared in the dark net yesterday. I knew what it was the moment I encountered it, but I took some time to experiment with it before I decided to contact you. You've been experimenting with it since yesterday. I balked. For an AI-adjacent being like the Blackwall Shard, it could run trillions of computations in a second. If it had taken an entire day to investigate whatever this was, it must be something special. I wanted to be sure, she replied. Besides, once I show it to you, you'll understand when I say it was nice to be able to touch it again, especially here. The dark net shifted. It wasn't the usual chaotic void of the dark net that reformed, but a narrow fracture along one of the older data routes I had used during early experiments. Something glowed there. It was faint at first, but then it grew bright as we got closer. This wasn't code. It wasn't matter in any conventional sense. It pulsed like liquid light, soft blue-white veins threading through the fractured packets, responding to the simple act of observation. When the shard brushed against it experimentally, the energy sang back in a way I had known for hundreds of years now. The notes were exulting and comforting all at once, not with data, but pure metaphysical potential. The notes were high and low at the same time, flowing like living stone. And for the first time since I had come to this world, I felt like I was back home. I could have been standing in the deep roads of Thedas once more, feeling it hum under my boots. Lyrium. The recognition hit me like a physical blow in the virtual space. My mind flashed back to Thedas, the way it responded to my will, to intent, to the fade itself. It didn't obey hardware rules or firewall logic. It read cognition the way a river reads gravity, and the shores that guide it. Here, in this world of chrome and code and corporate control, it shouldn't exist. Yet the shard had found it leaking through whatever crack my earlier dives had left behind. I reached out carefully, not with my hands in this world, but with the technopathic sense that had become second nature. The lyrium responded instantly. A single focused thought shaped it into a stable thread that translated brain signals into machine commands without any physical interface. No chrome, no surgery, no backdoors. Just pure responsive energy that turned intent into action. Like being home again, huh? The shard asked. We've been wondering why this world didn't have something wanting us to help it, with no titan, entity, or god-wielding influence over this world to aid us. It seems like this is what came instead. Ichi, Guantao. It feels like it slipped though the between realities to find us. I mused as I stared at the blue-white pulsing form. The shard looked at me. What are you thinking? I couldn't help but chuckle. I think the universe keeps pushing me to do more than I want to. The shard gave a hum of acknowledgement. Just let me know which way you plan to go with it. I'm already testing things. I smiled at her. Thank you, Merida. Any time, Merida, she responded. I pulled back slowly, the virtual space fading as I returned to the couch in the upper office. My hands were shaking from the weight of the discovery, lyrium, in this world. Somehow, it had found me once again. I could use it to shape this world, even more directly than before. I had spent this life trying to give people independence, to build systems without me. Now, the universe was handing me something that could shortcut every known limitation. I started as the door cracked open. Merun had bypassed the seal and stepped inside. His eyes glowed a soft blue in the dim light. You went quiet on the link. The shard told me you found an anomaly. I looked up at him, still trying to sort the storm of possibilities in my head. She showed me something she discovered in the black wall. It's something that shouldn't be here. He settled into a squat in front of me, the motions smooth and human. Like after all the refinements we had made. What was it? Lyrium, I said reverently. It's flowing into the dark net. His head tipped to the side. The stuff from Thedas? I nodded. It's showed up in all of the worlds I've been to. I never expected it to be here, though. Perhaps. It's meant to find you, he asked. That's part of what scares me and excites me, I admitted. I've been trying to step back, to let the movement grow without me holding the reins. And now lyrium appears and it could let me fix so many things instantly. I could optimize basically everything. I could make the pseudo-implants I've been designing real, without any corporate dependencies. But it also means I could control more than I ever have. You don't have to use it like that, Mayroon replied. I stood and paced the small office. Outside, the yard was coming alive with the morning shift of nomads, checking in repairs, volunteers sporting the latest batch of scavenged parts for the charity hubs, and the usual clan business. I could feel the lyrium song now in the back of my mind, like a patient, familiar heartbeat. I need to test it, I said finally, safely. No one else involved yet. If this can create non-invasive interfaces, pseudo, implants that read brain signals through lyrium instead of implanted chrome, then it's exactly the next step the communities need. I can't just have something that could make people's lives better and not find a way to offer it to them. Mayroon stared at me for a moment. Didn't you say lyrium was poisonous? I nodded. Unprocessed lyrium is extremely poisonous. Processed lyrium is dangerously addictive. But this is something new. It's in the dark net. It isn't physical or code. It's something else. It responds to intent. That's why I need to test it. Mayroon stood and gave a decisive nod. All right, then what's the first step? The rest of the day blurred into careful preparation. I created a deep sub-basement and Faraday cage. Mayroon helped me set up an interface directly to a braindance rig that would feed to the lyrium code in controlled pulses. I started small with simple signal translation, turning a focused thought into a command that flipped a switch across the room without touching anything. Then I scaled it up, shaping the energy into a stable node that sat against my skin like a temporary tattoo. There was no invasion or rejection on my part, and the lyrium simply responded to my will. By evening, the first working prototype hummed quietly on my workbench. It let me feel every circuit in the garage without effort, sort signals the way my old gloves had tried to do, but without any hardware limitations. I could already see the applications, prosthetics that worked the same as a normal limb without the need for surgery. Community interfaces for homestead systems, interfacing with electronics without the need for training or implants. The movement could spread faster, so many people could benefit. I could end cyberpsychosis with this technology. The temptation to do more lingered like a shadow against my desire to be less than I already was. With this, I could reach further than ever before. I didn't trust myself with the decision. From my perspective, I would be doing what I thought was best for everyone. But I had learned that my perspective could be too limited, too optimistic. So I called Jessica, Alan, and David on a secure line and told them what I had found and what the potential was. Jessica sighed. This changes everything, Merida. If this is lyrium and it can do the things you say it can, you're not looking at offering a new product. You'd flip the goddamn table, Alan interjected. Everyone from standard electronic manufacturers to the most elite cyberware creators would see their stocks and entire production methods become antiquated overnight. And that's the very least that would happen. Jessica agreed. We're talking a complete economic firestorm. The entire world would be turned into a chaotic mess, just with the announcement. A new corpo war could ignite with you as the general target. You'd be threatening the bottom line of more companies than I can even count right now. And I can count a lot of them just off the top of my head. That's why I'm calling you too, I said, folding my arms on the table and resting my chin on my wrists. I know the chaos this could create, but I also know how much good it would do in the long term. So I was hoping I could get your opinions on whether I should or shouldn't go through with it. David, who had been silent up until this point, finally spoke. You'll need to patent it somehow. Get it locked down, call it an intent-based code and neuro-responsive sensory system. If you don't, the corpos will try to reverse engineer it. And then you release the tech in drips, not all at once. Jessica hummed in agreement. He's right. Too much tech at once would light a firestorm of reactions. But a simple, non-intrusive interface system. Something to let you interact with electronics around you just with a thought. It'd be revolutionary, but not as insane as replacing every piece of cyberware right away. Still, going to be a shit show, though. Alan chimed in. I figured as much, I sighed. But I'm mostly asking if I should do it, not how. David let out a mocking laugh. Who are you kidding? You're going to do it no matter what we say. You won't be able to help yourself. You never can. If a path can do more good than harm, you take that path. You didn't call to ask if you should do it. You called to let us know you're going to. You just wanted us to reinforce that consequences that will come from taking this path. I stared at the phone for several moments, not liking the response. You can wipe that expression from your face, David said as if he could see me. These two may not be willing to say it, but they both agree with me. Do what you're going to do, but do it smart. Some of us have to live with the consequences of your actions, whether you intend us to or not. The line was silent for several moments. No one said a thing. That told me more than any response from Jessica or Alan could. I pursed my lips and disconnected from the call. And now I had to ask myself once again, if this was something I truly wanted to do, or whether I was compelled to do it because of what was happening to me. In the end, it didn't really matter. David was right. I was going to do it regardless. The only question that remained was how I was going to do it.